Yes, you can totally play a game wrong. And to people saying you can't play a game wrong because all that matters is you having fun, um, yeah, there's different definitions of fun, and some versions of fun are not ones you want to incentivize. Let me explain. Right off the bat, to throw out the as long as having fun, it's fine argument, multiplayer games. People can find enjoyment in griefing their teammates or just messing around the match and not actually doing the objective of the game mode whatsoever. People can find it fun just doing things like spawn camping or just making a miserable time for their opponent. They're not actually increasing the progress, what needs to be done. They're just doing it just to be a dick, but being a dick in the game is something they find enjoyable. Does that mean they're playing the game right? Is just going around griefing, trolling, and otherwise just being a nuisance in the game actually playing the game right? If someone's on your team doing nothing and is just sandbagging the team, not adding anything, and basically that's a slot on your team that could have gone to a different player who actually want to play the game, is that them essentially playing the game correctly because they find it fun just to do that? And that's where that argument, as long as having fun, isn't a one-for-all solution to this kind of question. But generally what people mean is single player titles, in that, well, you can't play a single player game wrong. To which, once again, yeah, you can. Let's say you mess up and didn't pay attention to what the game told you to do and keep failing. That is technically playing the game wrong. But I know people mean more in the sense of they're people who can make their own experience, whether it be their own challenge run, or enjoy a side content and stuff like that. Or there are people who just only care about a side mode in a game and not the actual main scenario of what the game is actually trying to unfold. In which case, yeah, those people are having fun with what they're doing, and while they're not technically doing the objective, they're still enjoying their time. So Caliber 6, for example, many people just make custom characters and upload them to the servers for people to use, and that's all they really care about. Making the characters, uploading it, that's all. People would say they're having fun with the game, so it's not playing the game wrong. Although some would also argue that at that point, are they even playing the game, period, if they don't touch any of the other modes whatsoever? Like I said, yeah, that is them enjoying the game, even if they're doing it in their own way. But then you have situations like the game Brutal Legend, a game that was purposely marketed to hide its actual made-up goal, which was being a real-time strategy game, instead focusing its marketing on the third-person action aspects. And while it is a competent action game in that sense, its main thing is being a real-time strategy game where you will need to learn and adopt the strategies in order to actually progress in the game. Trying to make Eddie into this one-man army on the field just will not work. You can help sway things in your favor, but you have to start micromanaging. You have to start using the songs to get more recruits. You have to start making the boosts, destroying the boosts, stuff like that. You have to do the actual main gameplay of it, and there were outlets who just wouldn't do that, instead trying to play it strictly as this action game where all they cared about was Eddie's moveset and would start messing up and failing. To a point where some claim the developers Double Fine were saying that people were intentionally playing the game incorrectly. Some would argue as more developer issue, but in this case, I would gonna bet with Double Fine in this instance and say it was more so people wanting to stubbornly play the game how they wish the game was, rather than the reality of what Brutal Legend actually is. Something I would get told was that I would play the Metal Gear Solid series as a kid wrong. Why? Because as a kid, my thought process was, why would I take the effort of knocking a guard and everything if it means I can be woken back up? Why not just kill every guard I come across, so that way that's one less enemy. Even if they find a body, that's still one less person to deal with. And there are people who would say I'm playing the game wrong because I'm prioritizing murdering the enemies as opposed to actually just knocking them out, with the character in the game generally being more pacifistic and having a trank gun and everything. But it's one of those things where I found the easier thing would be just take them out. There's even one point MGS3 in Groznygrad, which is later half of the game, where I need to specifically get this one person's body to a location, but doing it with so many people around was so difficult, I decided the easier solution was to essentially just massacre the entire place as a one-man army, which the game fully lets you do, and I was able to do it. And people would say, I'm playing the game wrong because of the fact of I'm turning this stealth mission into this freaking massacre. The Assassin's Creed series also got this complaint, even to this day, where they're marketed and made designed to be these stealth games, but you could also fight your way out of situations or make fighting your main method of situation, to a point where some felt like it completely undermined it being a stealth game, because what's the point of stealth if you can just go out there and fight enemies like that? Which, once again, that's more how the game's designed rather than giving you options. But once again, you can see why people say it's the wrong option because of the genre Assassin's Creed is. Another case saying people play a game wrong is often some of the complaints I've seen thrown at when it comes to 3D Sonic games. And while they have their issues, just the fact that a lot of complaints that I've seen, especially over the years, will stem from people trying to compare how a 3D Sonic title plays to a completely different 3D platformer that in no way, shape, or form are actually comparable. With the most obvious being, oh, compare a 3D Sonic game to a 3D Mario game. Even though the likes of Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy are more collectathon where you're trying to get a certain item, and Sonic games are usually about getting to the goal. Not exactly the same thing, and comparisons don't exactly add up. Like going, oh, freaking Sonic Adventure isn't as detailed as, let's say, Mario 64. Okay. Mario 64 has to make the level design where it has to accommodate multiple stars, some of which that can coexist in the same level layout. They just choose not to boot you out, while Sonic Adventure, at worst, has to change entire level geometry to take advantage of a character's certain traits. They're doing two completely different kind of things. When I understand people try to compare them to each other, because it's like, Sonic Adventure, Mario 64 trying to do the same thing at all, aside from, yeah, same genre, it's about it. Or I see people go further to say that, oh, the Jak series is better than anything 3D Sonic tried to do. Except Jak 2 and Jak 3 not only just forgo 3D platforming where Jak 1 started, flat out make into a joke about the era of 3D platformers being dead. The joke being even bigger in the HD version, we get a trophy called Dead and Gone. Just so you know, they're saying people don't want 3D platformers anymore, which is why those games are more like Grand Theft Auto copies, being more mission structure, third-person shooter, and stuff like that. They're not trying to be a 3D platformer. Like, yeah, the 3D platforming segments, but like, their main thing is, we're now an action game that's more story focused, and we got vehicles, not trying to be a big 3D platformer, so understand the comparison. Yet there are people who say 3D Sonic and the Sonic team by proxy are doing 3D wrong because they're not copying something else. And then when they make Sonic Lost World that tries to be more unique with its parkour mechanic, people instead accuse of copying Mario Galaxy, a comparison I don't even understand, really. Can you even go with the tube-like structure? Mario Galaxy has so much different stuff going on in its levels that just taking that one surface level critique, which Sonic Adventure 2 did first with Mad Space, I never really understood that. Another thing people complain about playing a game wrong is when people use certain exploits or speedrunners, especially speedrunners, where I see people who don't see the appeal of speedrunning and then complain that speedrunners are quote-unquote removing all the fun from a game because they're going through a challenge of trying to beat the game as fast as possible. Even though in order to do that, they would have to know the game in and out way better than any average player of the game does. So they actually have to put in a lot more effort in order to actually do that and uncover those strategies when it comes to speedrunning. But there are people who treat speedrunning as playing a game incorrectly, because how can you enjoy the game and try to beat it that fast? To them, trying to beat it that fast is the enjoyment. Hell, when I did a playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 2 for his channel years ago, I was using speedrun strategies for some of the boss fights. Does that mean I now have ruined some of those boss fights and I was intentionally using strategies made up by people who have played this game far more than me, or to make these strategies, or take advantage of the game's AI, or exploit certain aspects of the game's coding? I mean, I still enjoy doing it. Plus, there are many mechanics and exploits that people have found in a game that aren't exactly still developers were even aware about. A lot of times, of course they don't know about it because they can't try every single possible thing in a game before they had to ship it and release the game. So a lot of times people can bring something to a developer and they'll probably be like, no, they could do that, but it's cool that you found out. I think I remember it was David Jaffe who got told about tricks that people came up with when playing Twisted Metal on PS3. And he's just like, I know you can do that, but it's cool that you found it. Just showing that they're not playing the game wrong just because they found a new trick. In fact, now they have something new to play with when it comes to playing the game. To the point where some people get mad if certain tricks or exploits end up getting patched out by developers, because that means their fun is now being ruined, even if, though, that's the case where developers thought doing that was wrong, so that meant for them, people were playing the game wrong. A big case of playing the game wrong in my case is when I first ever beat Final Fantasy VIII, and when I played the game, I was stuck, and rather than trying to fully explore and understand what the junction mechanic could do, I instead decided to go with the old-fashioned method of if I'm playing an RPG and I can't beat the thing, time to just level grind until I can overpower it through numbers. Only to find out that I'm basically the final boss into a 4-phase level 100 final opponents, making the challenge of the fight exceptionally way harder, as I still didn't truly understand how junction mechanic works. It also meant now I only had one character who could properly survive the ultimate attacks that the final boss threw at them. I did end up winning and beating the game. Actually, I went back with that boss like at least 3 times, so I showed that I can do it and I have won, but doesn't mean I was playing Final Fantasy VIII correctly, because I tried to play in a way that wasn't intended the slightest, and in fact I got punished for it. Even if it did work out in the end, I don't think a Final Fantasy VIII fan would say, yeah, I played Final Fantasy VIII correctly, but I sabotaged myself. Which is another aspect why people say that you can't play a game incorrectly, because so long as you're able to progress forward in the objective, no matter how ridiculous what you did was, it still works. Once again, some people hold that more towards developers as an issue, but whatever ridiculous thing you did works, it still does work out, so you technically still didn't play the game right, even if you didn't play the game ideally, which is another thing for some people. And some people feel like playing a game wrong is when someone doesn't play it in the most ideal, optimized condition. Even though the average person is not going to care about optimized and ideal condition, the only time I do is when it's more so just for a laugh, like, oh hey, he's gonna play Persona 5 Royal and making this one boss freaking deal more than how much HP and damage back to itself. I'm doing it because it's funny, not because this is the ideal strategy everyone should do. No, it's just humorous and before I show my friends. Back to Final Fantasy VIII, this is why some people recommend playing Triple Triad, or specifically following a guide when it comes to Triple Triad, in order to basically make yourself as overpowered as possible as early as Disc 1 of Final Fantasy VIII. It is possible, it is a thing, but just because someone doesn't do that doesn't mean they're playing the game wrong. Just because they don't want to follow a specific guide and do everything perfectly does not mean they're playing Final Fantasy VIII wrong at all. They're just made up rules by fan bases. Oh, Kingdom Hearts 3, you can't use the summons, even though why we had the summons in the game, I'm not allowed to use them. Or the Souls franchise, you can't support other players, even though you can do that. It's like what main feature that'll keep saying other Souls games and stuff like that. Oh, Dead by Daylight, Killer is not allowed to use their entire King as Survivor because God forbid you play the game. But the whole entire thing where some people fan bases will just make up stuff to deter that their opponent's playing the game wrong, although this case is more of an ego thing rather than actual main thing of the game. Or where the game tries to go through more cinematic, but it's still a thing at the end of the day, that means the player can take advantage of cinematic setup to do something else. Remember, with the Fall San Andreas, there's one mission where what the game wants you to do is to chase this person into the water, get into boats, and then have this dramatic freaking boat chase where you're doing a drive-by on the boat. What my friend actually did was just put on a sniper rifle, shoot the guy in the back, because once the guy's in the water, he can't fight back or do anything, lead him a sitting duck. And it's like, we're still a video game, so I'm gonna go to more video game option and just shoot him in the back. And it's one of those things that you can tell developers probably weren't thinking someone would do that, but did he play the game wrong just because he took advantage of the fact of it? Because the Fall San Andreas is in fact still a video game. I will keep mentioning it. Can I have a friend get mad at me that I used the summon mechanic from 2015 against the final boss? Because for him, it was way more cinematic and epic moment. Yeah, for me, it's, oh, the game said push the button. I pushed the button, threw a rock, boss fight over. And it's like, I don't care the fight's ruined. The developers give me the option, I'm using it. Last thing I'll note, which I technically went over when it came to the topic on 3D Sonic games compared to R3 platformers, was when people play one game that tries to play differently from other things in the genre, and then go, but I don't understand why I'm struggling. Can't be me. I played into other different game of genre that plays completely differently. It's like, great, you're not playing that. I sing someone try and play something like Double Survivor from the Megami franchise and go, but in Fire Emblem, you're not playing Fire Emblem. Seeing someone say play Persona 3 and they get mad about the tactics system and go, but in Final Fantasy, you're not playing Final Fantasy right now. This is an important distinction. You're playing a different game. Or someone who tries to play the Battlefield series like it's Call of Duty. When, once again, yeah, same genre for person shooter, but they're not trying to play the same. They're trying to have their own different quirks in how they play. So play the game based on what the game is trying to do, not what this other game that you enjoy is doing. Hell, I used the example of people trying to play Persona 3 like it's Final Fantasy. Maybe that doesn't fully apply, because then people look at Final Fantasy 13, see it as an auto battle button, and then just use that all day, every day, where you're supposed to be picking out abilities from the menu for more efficient use of your combat, but then people ignore that thinking auto battle is just fine. It's like, yeah, you can win with just auto battle, but it's not the best idea the game wants you to do. And just stuff like that. I saw similar complaints for the Tales of franchise. People complain that the likes of Tales of Vesperia, Tales of Berseria, Zestiria, etc. play too weirdly for their liking, but at Tales of Arise, what they thought was a step forward, even though in reality, it was several steps backwards, and the reason they like it is because it plays more to a standard of action RPGs, but not exactly more like a Tales of game, which is why some try to claim it's not a Tales of game, even though it is, get over it, but it's one of those things where it basically removed more unique aspects of gameplay in favor of just being something that someone could pick up and probably be more familiar with how it plays. I have seen the horrors of people who refuse to use the block button in the Tales of game because it was too complicated for them, but then they praise the dodge mechanic in Tales of Arise simply because it's more in line with other action games where dodge for timing, they get a little counter hit. Granted, the counter hit you're getting in Arise has less follow-up than if it were a counter in a other Tales of game, but because now it's dedicated, more visually impactful mechanic, now people will use it, I guess. I just want to wrap up about this topic because I often see people who say that you can't play a game wrong, and it's like, nah, multiplayer shows you totally can. And sure, if what you're trying to do in a game is the main objective, then sure, you can't play the game wrong because you're not trying to go for the main goal. However, if you are trying to go for a main goal and let's say lose against a boss over and over and over and over and over, then clearly you are doing something wrong in the fight, or just flat out ignore mechanics and try and treat the game as something that's not, then yeah, you are playing the game wrong. There are ways to play the game wrong, and it's not just a case of what a person finds fun. So that's the same thing with a multiplayer example. A person can find it fun just to basically ruin a match in a multiplayer game. Does that mean they're playing the game right because they're enjoying it, but others aren't? Some would say they would be right because someone prioritizes only their fun over everyone else in a multiplayer match, and that no one else matters. So the whole entire topic. Or how some people like Dead by Daylight community will have fans create entire rule sets that are complete BS, but because it gives more leeway to one side or the other, they'll think it's the correct way to play the game when it's not. So, one entire thing of what a person defines as fun will completely shift. So just saying, as long as they're having fun, it's fine. No, because sometimes some people's idea of having fun is to just walk up and smack the controller out of someone's hand. So what I'm about, go out there, play a game. Well, I won't want to say when you're playing it wrong, but you're playing it wrong in a fun way and not playing it wrong in the I'm just doing this to ruin someone's day kind of way, you know? Like, play it wrong in the sense of, hey, the game it has a puzzle. We're trying to puzzle differently. We're trying to find some other way to overcome a challenge. That kind of play a game wrong where it's more enjoyable. I saw someone say how they got told they're playing the game wrong because they're playing Portal 2, and rather than trying to use the poles to get rid of, let's say, turrets, they would instead pick up a cube and use the cube as a shield and push over the turrets instead, clearing the challenge, but clearly in a way that wasn't exactly what developers had in mind, so they were told by apparently their friend that they were quote-unquote playing the game wrong, even though what they did still worked. So that's one other topic. Alrighty then, good day. Although the biggest form of playing a game wrong is not playing the game at all. So, go out there and play that game.